Good morning, buongiorno, Steph. How are you? How's
Good
it going?
morning. Yeah, a lot happier after a win last night against from
Yeah.
Hellas and back. Yeah, it was.
Imagine having to watch it. I mean, I know you did, but my God, was it a tough watch?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had worse games. I thought, a bit again. I think against the level of opposition, we're very relieved it was 3 points, considering
Yes.
some drop
Yes.
points across the rest of the table in the competition for top four. But I'm happy for 3 points on the table, and that's what I care about. I think we need to just work on collectively
Absolutely.
how we can improve as a team, and obviously midweek against finals a massive game. So yeah, but other
Absolutely.
than that, all good, man, all good. How you been?
Good. Very good. Yep. Yep. Bit of change of scenery for me at the moment, but yeah, getting there. Busy, busy. Obviously we're recording this on a Sunday morning as usual. Just as Steph said, off the back of the Verona game last night. And for those who might have joined me for the watch along yesterday, but also generally, I think just in discourse around Milan at the moment, I think today's subject is going to be one that Milan fans love to talk about, love to disagree on, but I think it's more topical than ever when you look at where
Mm.
we are, the players we've invested in. We are, of course, talking about our star player, Rafa Leao. And Steph, I want to ask you, and we're going to go into detail all about what we think, the current situation, the discourse around him from ex-players, ex-managers, the squad themselves. What are your thoughts on Rafa? Where do we stand with what seems to be looming a huge pivotal summer that's going to have to happen? Whether it's big change in terms of players, I think there's going to be a huge summer ahead. So, what do you think about Rafa at the moment?
Oh. Look, it, Liao's always an interesting
Mm,
topic of debate because I think none of us doubt that he's, from an individual quality perspective, our best player. That's without question. I think he's obviously, from a creativity perspective. I think he's now leading the top assists in over the last, was it 5 years in Serie A? I think the stats came out yesterday, like 36 or something like that. Or maybe less than that. It might have been 3 years, but anyway, I think from an individual quality perspective, no one's denying his ability as a player. I think over the years have gone on, specifically after the Scudetto season, we probably all expected a ramping up of whether consistency or finishing, sort of, elements to his game which aren't at top tier perspective, like his dribbling is, or his passing is, or yeah, just kind of potentially his athleticism as well. If he kind of tapped into a bit more
mm,
of that, there's elements to his game he clearly isn't at a top tier caliber level of a player at. And I think the consistency thing is the most alarming. Um, it's really difficult because I think I even see this with the criticism that he gets or doesn't get from a certain subset of fans, where because of the clout that he's achieved, and the respect he's achieved across his years at Milan, and essentially bailing us out in a purely esque Leao, get it to Leao and inshallah sort of system. We don't want to
mm,
basically try to not get on his back so much. We don't want to basically say he's the reason, he's the reason, he's the reason. But at the same time, with a fair level head, and this is what I try to do with any player that plays for the club right now, starting 11 perspective. If they are not giving 110%, and in any form, any shape of way, and that could be either him attacking wing backs. I'm not talking about going
mm.
back defending. I'm talking about what he's great at, going at players. And if he's not doing that 110% or 100% as a bare minimum, then I will critique you, because I think then where's then the level of pride or consistency to play for this club? The same way as I would critique any other player, like horrendously bad is the ones that we dislike, like your Yunus Musas,
Don't get me started on that boy.
equally to Christian Pulisic, who I thought
Yeah,
had an awful game against Feyenoord midweek.
yeah.
So when he got subbed off in 50th, 60th minute, I wasn't complaining because I thought
Mm,
he looked awful.
mm,
So I will not be biased to the criticism that I give a player. I think that's the starting point here. I think with Leao, he clearly has probably one of the highest market values of any of our players. Has recently signed a long-term contract, which is great and will be great for any sort of potential offer that comes in. The question here is, do we stick or twist with Leao? And my opinion is, I don't honestly see a club coming in, and I'm talking about a club which for him, which would be a step up, a
mm,
la Real Madrid, Barcelona, even like an Arsenal right now, who are in a better place right now as a project than us. I don't see a club like them coming in and slapping down what I think is the money that I think we would require to sell him. And to me, that is a minimum 100 million euros. I do not see a club coming in for that.
I actually disagree with that.
Okay, I mean,
I would say 80. I think we would take 80.
you
I
take it.
really do believe that. Yeah.
I I think taking 80 for me would not for. We can come on to like literally debating like that 20 mil theory thing. I think for an attacking player in this modern age, we're talking about a player that can, literally create anything off the dribble. His stats are just, shit, it's simply incredible when you look at that individually, and you think the upside that from a talent perspective he has it all there. He just needs to kind of either have the team work around him or essentially kind of tap into other elements of his game. And he's attacking player as well. They go for a premium. For me personally, whether we take it or not, but I think 100 mil for me minimum has to be the asking rate for him as a player. And I don't think we get that from any of those clubs, because back to that point of consistency. And as Milan fans, I think we sit here and we will say, let's get the team to work around him. We acknowledge that he isn't going to be someone that comes back and defends as much as wingers like Saka or like the fast-paced wingers of Liverpool, like Luis Diaz.
Or Pulisic even.
Or Pulisic, yeah, because he gives us something else. However, that for us will not be the same thing for another club, or equally another fan base, which I hear a lot of other fans, knowing Arsenal fans, go, I'd rather have a Saka than a Leao. And I say, well, I'd rather be entertained and watch Leao do things that I wouldn't expect him to do, and they'll be differing every game. Whereas Saka might just do the exact same thing and do the Iron Robin dribble into onto his left foot. So like, it depends what that club wants, and I don't personally see these clubs that we just mentioned about like try to come in for him for the money that I think we would want to shift him. So like, come on, I'll let you give your opinion, mate. But I think, and what my opinion is on the deal, and what I do want to talk about a bit more is, what do we want to be like as a club, and do we want to get away from being an individual sort of performance that will save us in moments like we saw last night with an incredible assist for Jimenez to score the winning goal, or do we want to potentially sell Leao and become more of a well-drilled machine like what we see with other clubs like Atalanta and Inter Milan in the league, and then essentially flip the coin on consistency and work rate as a club, and lose that element of flair and that love for that one moment where he just takes on two players and he just does this incredible piece of work to potentially score us a winning goal or get a winning assist. So like, it depends what you want, really. I think that's the leading question here for any Milan fan who wants to either stick or twist with Leao. But I don't know, I've rambled on for about nearly 7 minutes here, but give me your opinion on this one.
I just also want to preface as well, because the Rafa thing is just so contentious. I think you said it really well, but I want to reinforce it. We're not hating on the guy. Like, we all love Rafa. Like, we understand his quality, the uniqueness, how important of a player he is. So don't think that we're sitting here like bashing the guy. I actually think he gets unfairly bashed, to be honest. My problem with him is that I actually don't think it's a mentality thing. So I'll talk about one point I mentioned last night. I actually think he really is a massive Milanista. He just doesn't have that. He doesn't show it like a Giroud maybe did when he was at the club, or a player like Mike, who leads by example that he has a love for Milan. I think he's just his character, but I genuinely believe he cares about Milan. So let's put that down there. You agree with that? Yeah, he 100% cares about this club. So don't think that he doesn't want to do well for the Milan. I disagree with that. Unlike Teo, who I think is actually a slightly different case. But look at Moise Kean, right? The reason why I bring him up, and this is random, but hey, they're best friends. Moise Kean and Rafael Leao are literally, they are best friends. You can see it on social media. It's like quite common knowledge. Moise Kean's having the best season of his career right now. And he has the same interests and the same personal life that Rafa gets like damned for, the rapping, the sort of like mini gangster thing that he has going on. But no one's talking shit about Moise Kean this season because he's banging 15 goals and he's playing really, really well. Okay. Why I say that is because I think that they're both similar people in the interest that they have. They love football, but they love all this other stuff. They love the fashion, they love the rapping and all the rest of it. But let that not detract from the fact that the guy is committed, right? Like Moise Kean is committed to Fiorentina and banging goals in. The reason I bring that up is because I want to dispel the mentality thing. I think the mentality thing is irrelevant with Leao for me personally. I genuinely look at him now and I'm looking at it objectively, and I'm looking at the player that we have who's 25 years old, who hasn't developed in those key areas. Bear in mind, he's been in the same league all this time as well. That's something really important. I don't think people think about. He hasn't jumped different leagues. Yeah, he had Ligue 1, but he wasn't really a developed player at that point. And then he's into Serie A. He's been in Serie A for what, 6 seasons? Is it six or? He's been in the same league.
2019. I think we signed him
Yeah,
summer.
it must be 6, or
Yeah.
5.5, I guess.
5.5.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
same opponents
Over
week
half
in,
a
week
decade.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, over half a decade. Same opponents week in, week out. Same environment, same league. And honestly, he has not developed those skills that we thought he would have developed. Therefore, my problem with Leao isn't mentality. I actually think it's ability. Not that we think that on his day, he's amazing. And that's what I'm going to get to. You know, we talk about AC opportunity. I also think we are AC on their day. Like a lot of our players on their day are the best in the league, or Leao is on his day one of the best wingers, left wingers in world football. The problem I have is that I think he would suit a team that's already the finished article. He is like the cherry on top, the best cherry you're ever going to have, but he's a cherry on top. I don't think we should be relying on Rafa now to pick up this team by the lapels and bring them to victory. I just don't think he's that guy. I don't think he has that mentality. That's not taking away from anything that he does. Like last night, the Verona game, he was pretty ineffective. His touches were awful, but then in 30 seconds, he does an incredible assist, and it sets Jimenez up for an open goal, and we win the game. Incredible, right? The problem is he can't do that every single week against Verona. He hasn't scored a goal in the league at home this season. That's a mental stat. And I was talking to the guys again on live stream, and I think it's something I was going to bring up in the chat. Do you think a player like Rafa Leao this season, I'm not talking about ability, because I do think, again, ability-wise, he's the best player in the league. I genuinely still believe that. Honestly do believe that. Conte would take David Neres over Leao this season every single day, even though Leao has more goals and assists than David Neres. Do you know why? Because David Neres is putting in unbelievable performances week in, week out against Inter and then against Verona the next week. Rafa doesn't do that. Rafa just does not do that. And to go to your point about the consistency and to lead it on to what you were saying, modern football for me has changed as well, right? I think whether we like it or not, and Rafa Leao is kind of a dying breed, and maybe football will change when Guardiola leaves the game or whatever might happen, right? Maybe a player like Leao is born in the wrong time period for football, but system players work better. Again, another winger that I will compare to Salah. I actually don't think Salah's a technically great footballer. I watch him. I'm not really impressed. He had one good season where he won the Puskas Award, which was mental for that dribbled goal. But he isn't a player that does flicks and tricks. He just bangs goals. He bangs assists.
He's a great
and
finisher.
he's consistent every single season, right? I'm not asking Leao to replicate Salah numbers. What we're asking him to do is not even about the salary he's been paid, not even about the star status he has. If he wants if Milan are going to use him as a reference point for this team, he has to be doing it against Inter and then against Verona the following week, or in the Champions League against Dinamo Zagreb and against Real Madrid. He can't pick and choose anymore. And I actually think that's him. That's just him. I don't think he is the player that we think he is. And that's not a bad thing. Let me preface that. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think he's the team's in a state where we can't appreciate or utilize Rafa for what he is, which for me, he's a win more player. If the team's already good, he'll make you so much better. That's kind of where I'm at with Rafa. That's my opinion of it.
Yeah, no, I think you made a good point on where wingers are these days in football. And if we kind of like peer it back a little bit here and we go back to the sort of the 2000s or equally the 90s era, wingers or left midfielders or right midfielders is what used to be today, especially specifically in 4-4-2s, were traditionally only brought in to just across the ball into the, you know, two strikers in the middle of the box. And they wouldn't have to worry about their goal contribution. So like, yeah, your David Beckham's, your Ryan Giggses obviously were
Right, yeah.
fantastic
Rua
wingers.
Pires, players like
Yeah,
that.
but
Yeah.
they were contributors to the goals. They
Mm.
weren't goal scorers. And now how wingers have shifted over the years, and specifically now, like look, you just mentioned a few wingers yourself there, like Salah. You know, if I look at Arsenal, they've got Martinelli, they've got Saka, they've got Trossard. Yamal, Vinicius Jr., Mbappe was a winger at PSG. Wingers are now, specifically now in the most common formation in a 4-3-3, are more required to be finishers above anything else, probably then more than creators, because the way the 4-3-3 is now, strikers drop in, especially with false nines, to allow the wingers to make those runs. And now Leao has, from a physical perspective, the ability to do that. So you think about his athleticism, his speed, his
height,
acceleration, his height.
size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think he should have everything in his locker to be that. However, he has two things that stop him from doing that. One, well, probably three actually. I think one is finishing ability. I don't think he's necessarily great at it. And he isn't great at it. Look at the Feyenoord game. He also missed another, I think, when the ball landed in the box yesterday against Hellas.
Oh
He just,
yeah, he skied it like Musa.
he just has no instinctive ability to go, this is the right finish I should do in this moment, regardless, other than maybe cutting in off the left. But even in itself is not great. He had another one where he lounced over a long distance shot last night as well. It's just like long distance shooting is not in his locker either. So there's a lack of massive consistency with his finishing ability. Secondly, I don't think he has the mentality to go, I will score above anything else. Like, you know, I used to hate on players like Salah because I think they were greedy and they took away from players like Mane, who were the work rate wingers. When the reality is, that's the difference between winning a league or not, because he'll put up 25 to 30 goals a season just
because
in the league.
he'll miss one chance, but he'll never get the next one.
Yeah,
every single time.
Yeah. And there's a reason why we sit here for years upon years going, why haven't we got a penalty taker? Why haven't we got a penalty taker? Now, a lot of these wingers I've just mentioned here take penalties for their respective clubs. Salah, Saka, Vinicius Jr., Mbappe, because they want to score. They want to be finishers. Why have we never seen Leao take a penalty? Does he not want to take a penalty? That's the question. Or does he just not think he's good enough to take one? And it comes back to that finishing ability piece that I just don't think he wants to have. And the third thing, I think he is, and bringing it back to the 2000s and the 90s era, to your point, he is a player that probably would have been perfect in that era because he would have created more than he would have been required to finish. He is someone that thrives creating goals for other players. That assist last night for Jimenez, fantastic. Some of the assists that he's had in the past, specifically that Napoli one where he takes on the whole team and he assisted to Giroud, amazing, because he's happy to not be in that, you know, I don't think he minds being in the spotlight as the main player. I think he's happy for that, specifically when things are going well. But if you see him right now and the abuse he's getting from players like Cassano, which is fucking, you know, ex-players like Cassano, which is really annoying and really frustrating. I think, and you see him get frustrated on the pitch. He's popping off with a few more fights now. He did it last night against Verona. He's pushing a few more players. He did it recently in the derby against Inter Milan as well, which I did love. But like, he's clearly getting frustrated from this spotlight on him.
Yeah.
From this spotlight, as you just mentioned here, that he hasn't scored a single home goal at home this season. And I just don't think he's a player that mentally, as much as he would love it from when it works well, but I don't think necessarily he loves it when it's not working well. Or not necessarily, he probably doesn't want it at all. I think he's happy just to kind of be like, you know, the second reference point. Like, he's never going to be a captain of a side. He's never going to be, to your point, like what Mike is. He, you know, these are players that will go there, and I have respected these recent post-match interviews where he's talked about our lack of aptitude or a lack of like quality in games. I think he was the one that spoke out after the Feyenoord game. I can't remember what it was now, or maybe the Zagreb game.
It was Feyenoord, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I do really respect that, and I do really hope he comes a long way in that regard. But like, I just think you made a good point. I just don't think we keep wishful thinking, going that he's going to turn into something more than what he is right now.
He's just not. We're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. Appreciate for what he is. Like, that's where I'm at with it now. He's 25.
Yeah.
You know, he's been in the league, like we were saying, for almost 6 years. Like, there are very few players that have had that opportunity. And I'm not saying he hasn't developed. He's incredible, but we've got him. Like, we know what he is now. He's a known quantity. That's it for me. You know,
I guess my question here is, do we have to sell him to like kick on with the rest of the squad where we?
Yeah, that's the next question, right?
That's the question here, and I don't necessarily think we do. And I look at us from a starting 11 perspective. And I don't know if we're going to stick on twist with Teo Hernandez, so maybe that's a second debate in the future. And in the centre back positions, we're going to do a video short for next week is going to be on our centre back options, where I think there's actually a lot of upside there. And then the right back position, obviously long term could do some work, but at the moment it's kind of like somewhat working now with Walker. But obviously we need to address that. But realistically, we're not going to have to heavily invest at right back. I think for me, to make this team and this formation make sense, is we need to get a ball winning defensive midfielder, which would then allow us to recover the ball better, specifically when like players like Leao or Reinders or any of the forward players lose the ball sloppily, to allow us to consistently keep the pressure up and not so much have to worry about maybe a lack of work rate from the rest of the players. I think if you were to sit here right now and go, our starting 11 is obviously whatever that back line looks like. Mike, you have a DM, Fofana next to him, Reinders as like the box to box cam,
advanced box to box. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's that 4-3-3, because we know he can put up numbers like he's doing this season, and he can help from a passing ability perspective. On the right, you put a Pulisic or whoever you want to put there. Up front, obviously Jimenez, and on the left, Leao. For me, from a starting 11, I think that's great. But obviously, that DM is the crucial point. And like we mentioned about what club we want to be if we sell a Leao and go more into disciplined era and have maybe a winger that defends quite a lot and stuff like that. But I am not personally willing to risk us selling him, getting the replacement wrong. And I just think we've become so Leao dependent over the last couple of years that this squad are going to have a massive shake-up on how they're going to be able to create for each other.
Yeah.
Whereas they've had so many years now to go, get the ball to that boy and he will fucking save us. Whereas as we have seen it many times this season where he's been dropped. And even like last night against Hellas, we did all right before he came on. But clearly there was a shift when he did come on, and obviously he created a goal. And I think we will lose a lot more than we would potentially gain by selling him. But it really depends on how much we need that money for.
I agree with that. I really do. And I do not trust this management, as we've seen, enough to use whatever money we might get from Leao to replace him effectively. Because of course he's irreplaceable is not quite the word, but we lose such a identity and attacking force when we get rid of him. It's just, for me, I just want the discourse from the fan base to change. I don't want fans to be talking about Rafa Leao's the best player in the league when they're referencing 3 seasons ago. Enough of that. And I don't want people to go, oh, he's shit, he's part of the problem. It's not that either. I just don't think he is what we wanted him to be, which is also not a problem. Like, that's not an issue. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm at with it. It's like we've got two different sides of the argument, arguing all the time. And I actually feel sorry for him, because he probably knows it. The guy's on social media, right? He is clearly that generation of player. I think he's fed up with it as well. You said about the point about the spotlight. I agree with you. I don't think he necessarily craves it or cares that much. I don't. I just think he is the player that he is. Like, there is no imagining of what he is or isn't. I think what we see is what we get with him, and that's fine. Like, let's just. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm at with Raf. I just want the discourse to change.
He's a victim of obviously some incredible performances and some incredible moments. And I think naturally, as fans or anyone watching him, and as a neutral or as someone who doesn't watch Milan, it's easy to go, we're going to go for that guy because basically he's their best player, and say he doesn't give you enough consistently. I mean, look at the stats; he doesn't score enough goals. Like, really strip it back, and once again, what sort of player do you want him to be? If you're happy with him doing what he does right now from a statistical perspective, and he creates more than he scores, then great. I think we're on the same page. I think the problem is, if you want him to be more than what he is, or if you're so worried to defend him against neutrals or rival fans or your Casanos, like, honestly, that's why I stick off social media. I don't need to defend Leao for me to know that he gives something to this club. I don't need to defend him to other fans on why I know why he still provides us benefit. But like, if you're so content on you need to defend that, then that's your problem. And I think, unfortunately, he's going to have moments where he lets you down because he's not going to be what you want him to be. No. And I think the sooner that as fans get that into their heads, the sooner we can realize what we have here. And that's the key thing about this.
100%.
I want him to be turn around this next season if we stays here, for example, and he puts up incredible numbers and he's considered in the Ballon d'Or. But personally, I never think I don't ever think Leao's going to be in the conversation for a Ballon d'Or
No,
because
no,
of
me neither.
the faults that
Yeah.
the imperfections
But
that
it's
he
not a
has to his
problem.
game.
But it's not an issue. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
not a
Like
problem. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a problem with that. I have no problem with that.
Because if I look around the rest of the team,
Yeah.
there's other players. I'm like, shit, sort them out first.
Yeah, I
Like,
look at Musa and I think,
yeah.
fuck me.
Well, I'm like, I mean, I could have a scouring attack against the rest of the sides and how they're, how they lack the elements that
Yeah.
there's a lot of players I wish they could improve on elements of their game. I wish Fofana could be better at winning the ball back and
Yep.
consistently wise. I wish, yeah, I could just literally go at each player one on one. There's no point about this because it'll turn into a 40-minute video. But it's the point being that, like, it does mentally feel like when I watch Milan even now, and I do this, and I'm like watching us play and we're building up, and then like Leao's on the ball, nonchalantly passes it back. It's like spotlight, target him. But reality is, look around the rest of the side at that moment as well. Are they doing anything else? Like, everyone's getting paid fucking well here. So like, are they all doing more? And maybe it's the pay thing that comes into it. That he's one of the highest paying players that we should be expected to do more. But then he puts up those moments that we saw last night. So look, have it as you want to have it in this conversation. But I mean, I personally would not want to sell him because I just don't trust what that future looks like afterwards.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. We kind of live and die by Rafa, and it's kind of a blessing and a curse. That's kind of how I see it. But obviously, look, we're interested to see what you guys think. Steph and I are clearly on the same page for this one, and we want to know if you guys disagree. Are you completely, ostracized him? If so, why? Or are you completely like defending him like against the Casanos of the world and saying no, he's the best player in the league. He's just, it's all the other stuff that's going around the club that can't unlock him. Whatever it might be, we want to know what you guys think. But ultimately, we're still very thankful and lucky to have him. And it's clear, I'm sure we'll talk about this in future chats. There's a lot more going on that sort of adds to the Leao problem. But we just wanted to kind of focus on him because it's a topical one. And unfortunately, because he is our quote unquote franchise player, he's always going to be discussed about. So yeah, guys, let us know, what you think. And any closing thoughts on Rafa, Steph?
Nah, I mean, I hope he has a great game against Feyenoord, shuts up some of the critics again. And the reality,
and if he doesn't, then
the reality in my mind, he probably won't. I think we're gonna have a tough game midweek. I think he's gonna struggle. But I really hope, the right back came out, started talking some trash about him, saying he was predictable to play against. He wasn't that fast. I really hope he shuts him up. And if he does, then we'll be here singing his praises. And then in the next game against Torino on the weekend, he might have a shit game. But that's the reality of it for me. I'm content with that.
Me too.
But as long as the overall of the season works out, then fair enough. But big game midweek, so he's got to hopefully put up a good performance there.
Yeah, let's manage our expectations, guys. I think. Cool. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Obviously, make sure you listen to the podcast. You can get, I think, a week for free on Substack, which you can get access to this and lots of other bonus content that's always been pumped out. So thanks always for joining. And for those listening, take care. We'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.
See ya.